Welcome back to another live edition of the Moonshot Dispatch. Today, we're going live, but we've only got really 1.5 people. Nick has been unwell and he's lost his voice, which is perfect when you've got to talk for an hour. Say something, Nick.
I've been saving my voice all morning, actually, not talking. When I was getting the kids ready for school, this is a great life hack. I'll let you in on this. So I was whispering all morning just because it was actually painful to talk, especially yesterday. But this morning I was whispering to the kids. And after about, I reckon, 5 minutes, they started whispering back. It was like this psychological thing where they felt I was just always whispering. So like, maybe I should be whispering. Have you seen that psychological thing where it's like there's a row of people and they're all actors and they're sitting in this room and then there's a noise that beeps, it goes doot like that. And then they all stand up because this is part of the acting thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and they sit down again.
Confederate studies.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and then they get the real person who's not part of the acting. Should I continue? Or?
Yes.
Yeah. So they get a real person who's not part of the acting troupe, who comes in, sits down in the waiting room, thinking they're signing up for some $100 gift voucher to do some kind of test or whatever, and the noise goes off, and everyone stands up, and the other person's like, "Oh, what's going on?" Doesn't quite understand, and then 5 minutes later, the noise goes off again, and they all stand up, and the person's like, "Oh," and they kind of stand, and eventually that person stands up. And then they cycle out one by one the actors and slowly get in more and more real people until eventually all the real people are standing up and sitting down every time they hear.
And with no idea why they're doing it.
Yeah, they don't know why, but it's just this social contract that they've got with each other that they have to do it. Anyway, this is what happened this morning with my kids. I started whispering and they're like, "Oh, maybe I should be whispering too." And it was great. The house was delightful and quiet, and we didn't have people running around and screaming. There was still toys crashing into walls and whatever, but it was. I might continue to pretend to have a sore throat. Actually,
I might start whispering too.
Yeah, just when you get home, just hi everyone. I'm just Anyway, yeah, that was eye opening. But yes, I've been saving my voice. It doesn't sound too bad at the moment, actually. I'm wondering how it's going to travel throughout the rest of the podcast, but for now, it seems to be working.
In other big news, astute observers will know that I have an obscenely large notepad, and it's not because I've shrunk, as Nick pointed out.
Yes.
The reason being,
looks normal to me.
I decided to do a bit for the environment. When I printed this out, apparently for whatever reason, it just decided to print in gargantuan because I didn't select the normal size.
You're like, I hate the planet option. Use the giant paper for no reason.
Well, as we know, the meme of the week has been everyone doing their bit for the humanity while the Middle East is being bombed into oblivion. But you know what? A bit of serendipity in that, there's giant margins now for my note taking. So,
and you can't see
it
as
might
well,
become a regular feature. I didn't want to print it out again for the sake of just printing it.
For those that you can't see, but for the printout's just the normal A4 size. It's just got these giant white areas with absolutely nothing in it.
I like borders, okay?
Yeah, I like borders.
The padding is insane, but yeah, you've used it. So
I've used it well. I've taken.
Call him SwiftX because his margins are huge.
Topical.
Well, it has been a tumultuous week, very tumultuous week. And you know what? It's following a pattern of tumultuosity. Just made that word up. We've got oil trading like a pump and dump meme coin, Bitcoin did it first, but now oil is doing the same thing. Oil, I know we're talking about Bitcoin here, but the oil thing has been crazy, right? Because of what's happening in Iran, the supposed closure of the Straits of Hormuz.
Supposed, you don't believe it? Well,
no, I don't. No, it's open. When I say it's open, there has been some developments.
Lee has declared it open. Everyone, you may go through.
It's going to flow into a couple topics that we are going to cover today. One being Trump's brinksmanism. There's another word I just made up. But the art of making the deal. There has been a letter published by Kabai, talking about how this is following a predictable and already established pattern of Trump-like behaviour, having a predictable and Trump-like effect, I guess, on the market. Man, I'm having a shocker. Yeah. Whatever. Anyway, as a result, there has been, I guess, volatility in the Bitcoin market, but there's
not much, actually.
All right, forget I said that. Yeah. It's holding up and doesn't matter.
Volatility in the oil market, yes.
Volatility in the oil market, or definitely volatility in the TradFi markets, with the stock market plunging and NAB analysts warning the strain inflation could surge. However, Bitcoin, as you point out, has actually held up pretty well. So take it all back. And some analysts, though I don't know who exactly, is saying the bottom is in.
Yeah, I mean, this is it is pointing to that, and I nervously like to agree with it because we have sort of seen... we've seen the Bitcoin price drop down to these 60 levels, which is below the previous all-time high, which is a classic hallmark sign of a bottom. we did do a sort of temporary drop down to the low 60s as well, where everyone was like, oh, that's it. It's going to continue going down to like
It's
49K and 29K and all of these like really low numbers people were calling for. And now we're kind of back up and weathering a pretty heavy storm at the moment. So yes, the geopolitical tensions are at all-time highs. However, well, you know, prices in the stock market are not doing great things. Inflation's going to go crazy. Oil prices are up. Oil affects, for those who sort of don't follow this geopolitical petrodollar oil stuff, oil runs the whole earth basically. So, you know, you might drive an electric car, but the fact is all of your groceries are shipped in using trucks that, you know, run on petrol. All of that stuff is shipped in literally over the oceans using tankers that use petrol, that use oil to do this stuff. It's just, you know, if anything happens to oil, the whole world sort of feels the change. And with prices of oil being really volatile, A, and B, going higher and higher, everything is just going to get more expensive, which what does that mean? Well, you know, people charge more for things, inflation goes up, and we all get wrecked. Yeah, so the US we're staring down the barrel of a rate cut. That doesn't seem very likely at all. I believe Polymarket is currently chancing a rate cut at 1% or something like that. So it's basically not happening. Australia is very likely going to increase rates by 25 bips at the next meeting, which, you know, was kind of obvious as well. We're still seeing a bunch of inflation, and then this oil stuff happens. Petrol's at $2.15 or something. I don't know. It's expensive. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, right? And I know this isn't strictly to do with crypto, which is our job to talk about, but, you know, whatever. There is a war going on, so, you know, let's cover off on the broader macro theme at the moment. That being that yes, as you mentioned before, the oil price has surged and it pumped like a meme coin. Now it's back down around $90 or so on reports that actually, the Strait of Hormuz. So here's the interesting thing that I learned was that, so basically what was happening was that, you know, Iran was going, okay, we'll basically have a strategy whereby we'll put economic pressure on everyone so that, you know, we can't, you know, probably compete with the Americans and the Israelis on the military front, but we can force enough pressure onto those governments that, you know, there's economic carnage. But they militarily have a problem because their ability to control that is, I guess, their strategy relies on that. So what they showed, and there was an interesting clip that I saw, was that effectively the ships are still passing through the Strait. They just turn off their transponders, so you can't actually see them. So if you can't see them and you don't have, you know, if the Iranians don't have the technology to go and find these ships, if they just turn off, you know, leave their mobile phone at home, effectively they can get through. So that's kind of reports are being through. And then if you look at the heat map of this, you kind of see ships disappearing, ships reappearing.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, well, that didn't work, guys.
They turn off the transponder and they put up like an Iranian flag. It's like, no, we're the good guys. And then they...
Now, I'm not very good at geography, but I got told that maybe the Strait of Oman or the Oman Canal could be done. I'll just show you on screen. Someone said, why are we bothering with the Strait of Hormuz when we could simply do this? Explain it to me like I'm 5. And the response is, mountain hard and big, water no up, many much dig.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's why couldn't we easily just create a 3,000 kilometer canal? Simple, like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we'll keep going with the market summary before we talk about the actual news. Well, hang on. We aren't talking about the news.
This is newsworthy.
So at least in Bitcoin, so we'll get back to things that we are supposedly our core competencies. So Bitcoin did attempt a bit of a breakout this week, above 104k Aussie last week, but didn't hold. You know, so maybe we can get your thoughts on that. And everything else, you know, down, flattish. It seems to have shaken off most of the bad news.
Yeah, I mean we've had this. Sorry to go back to the oil stuff, but we've had, you know, if you rewind couple of months, we had this gold supply shortage and gold was pumping hard, and then, you know, rewind a week and we've had this oil supply shortage and 20% of the world's oil through the Strait of Hormuz is not available anymore, and everyone's like digging into their reserves, and we've got this supply shock on gold, on oil. When do we get the supply shock on Bitcoin? You know, surely it's our turn now. We've done the opposite to, anyway, we'll actually talk about this later, but no, Bitcoin's been holding up really well, and so I think we were talking about this before. Is this the bottom? I mean, if we were to form a bottom, I think this is what it would look like. I'm not going to say it's definitely not going lower, but these are good
Claim
signs.
it, Nick.
Yeah,
Claim it.
No. Oh, I really want to, because emotionally this feels great. Like all of my little sort of
Think of the
things
victory
that
laps you
have
can be
been
doing
ticked
in
off.
6 months' time. It
That's
is
true. No doubt I'll have forgotten by then what I claimed, but yeah, everything's ticked off that I would like to see, except for the time component. So I think I've often spoken about, it's not how much, it's not time in the market, it's time in market, and it's not about, you shouldn't be looking for sort of price targets per se. You should probably be looking for time-based targets, and like, if things have had enough time to play out. It doesn't seem like we've had enough time. Classic 4-year cycle theory would say it's closer to sort of October when we would see, a bottom formed, and here we are in March, well before October. We have spoken before as well about, this seeming to be like a speed running of the bear market. Everything happened so much quicker this time, I feel. We dropped below the previous all-time high very quickly. And so maybe it is. Maybe we're forming this bottom. We've been, fear and greed index has been at all-time lows. I think it's at like 13 or something this week, which is still extremely low. Not as crazy as 5 or 6. I think that bottomed at a week or two ago. But all of these little things are getting ticked off in my book, and this does appear to be something that could look like a bottom. Anyway, yeah, I'm being very careful about my wording here, because I definitely don't want to claim.
You're not confident.
No, I'm not confident.
I can sense the lack of
As I say,
confidence.
because of the timing. If this was happening in sort of September or something like that, I'd probably be going, everyone, mortgage your house.
But you would never do that.
No, of course I wouldn't. Yeah, I would turn my mic off before I did that and use yours. Yeah, anyway, what other things can we talk about? So apparently, according to some, not Ted Pillows, but some Ted Pillows-like guy, we've got an inverted hammer in terms of the Bitcoin astrology.
Okay.
And this could mean potentially prices are going to go up soon, which is nice. This is like on the weekly chart. So finally, and we've spoken about this before as well, we've had something like 6 or 7 weeks of red candles, which is a lot of red candles. And historically, what happens after red candles? Well, green candles, obviously.
I've
And
listened to Tom Lee. I know.
yeah, that's right. It's the sign that's red at the bottom because we've had too much red. It's not allowed anymore. Yeah, so we've got a green candle finally on the weekly. It was very minimal because we did, as you say, had that pump up to 70 something, 73 or whatever, and then we lost it all basically. And when a few more missiles went off, but we still managed to end up higher than we started last week. So yeah, we've finally got a green week. This week is also so far looking green. Obviously, anything can happen in the next 5 days. But in other news as well, I think we should talk about strategy. So strategy have
buying more Bitcoin,
gone crazy and bought something like 18,000 Bitcoin in the last week or whatever for an average price of 70 odd K. So they did pretty well. But this is the biggest amount they've bought in a long time, especially since they're currently under their average buy price kind of thing. And it just shows that like Saylor is just a maniac. Like
he will not stop.
Yeah, I don't understand. And I don't like it. I've spoken about this before as well. I don't like how much Bitcoin MicroStrategy strategy has. It's just too much. And it's going to become existential.
Look, thank you for first comment for the day from Skynet. Thank you. BTC issuance will hit 20 million today, in the next couple of hours, in fact, which we're going to talk about a bit later on. It's been in the news.
I thought it already happened. Skynet, do
Fact
some.
check.
Let me know. Yeah, please fact check that. I thought it happened a few days ago, but maybe I'm wrong.
All right, so where to next? I've got a lot of pages to turn to get to the news, so feel free to suggest before I find it. Oh man, look at this thing. It's crazy. Like, I didn't quite think through the practicalities. I said on the way in here that, one of the great things about having this giant bed sheet of a notepad is that it's great for margins.
Keeps you warm.
It does keep me warm. But it also means that it's going to be quite cumbersome through the actual broadcast.
Yeah.
Anyway, so which one should we talk about first? Should we talk about the Trump playbook? I found this a little bit interesting. So
go for it.
There was, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but the Kabai letter?
Sounds good to me.
I don't know. Anyway, I've read it. I haven't heard it. I don't know. You tell me, Mr. Kabai, how you pronounce your name. But one of the things that is interesting, and it is interesting to see how this has actually been playing out. And in fact, while I was reading this, I saw an update which fit into the narrative of the Trump playbook. So
Go on.
if I kind of just outline the high level steps, and he kind of outlined 10 steps, but I think we can kind of break it down into, first of all, he goes on to social media and just claims he's going to do something.
This is Trump.
This is Trump, yeah.
Yep.
He'll just go on a True Social and be like, hey, Iran. And he did this as well. 2 months ago, he comes out live and he goes, there's a big armada coming your way. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's coming. Everyone's kind of like, what? There's no armada. What are you talking about, crazy orange man? But there was a giant armada
Are you
coming.
talking
He
about
was, yeah.
I'm not the crazy orange man.
Second most crazy orange man after you. Then, as a way of basically forcing people to negotiation table. So I'm
Yep.
sure Iran still kind of went, oh, what if there is? That's not great for us.
Did they turn their transponders off? Because we can't see them.
Well, that's a great thing, I guess, about being a nuclear submarine is you don't have to worry. And if you're the USS Ford, what's the other one? All those huge naval carriers. It doesn't matter anyway because you're, I don't know.
You're pretty visible.
You're pretty visible,
Yeah.
and you're pretty big and pretty safe. But he kind of does that as a way to go, okay, this is happening. Come to a negotiation table, and if you don't like it, that's when he goes, okay, now I'm doing it. So he backs it up. So then he backs it up with the actual physical positioning. So he did this. He publicly went out there and Iran's full vision, going, hey, we're going to get this armada together, right, boys? I've got an idea. We're getting an armada, and we're going straight to Iran, and we're going to bomb the heck out of it. And that's what he did. And he did that completely in public. And still, Iran was not like going, okay, yeah, they weren't coming back and going, okay, you know what? No nuclear weapons for us. Okay, no, that is Israel can stay for a while. So then he backs it up, and he did the same thing with Manduro and a bunch of other examples in the exact same way. He closed Venezuelan airspace, then he physically positioned to kind of do what he said he was going to do. And then if that doesn't bring him to negotiating with him, then he actually goes and delivers the goods. So he says what he means and he means what he says, and then he actually went and, we know what happened because he's decided to actually do it. So then this is that's kind of the mid game. So if you think of it a bit like chess, there's the opening moves. If they don't work, you're now into the middle of the game. And in which case, I guess American military superiority just meant that kind of wiped the floor with most of the military assets, at least in Iran. Then comes, the end game, right? So how does he then position himself for an exit and a win right? And so what he does, he'll kind of like, and here's what interesting thing he does. He always does it after markets close.
The Saturday announcement.
Friday night, Saturday announcement. That's when he's like, okay, because he's very obviously very concerned. He doesn't want there to be, pressure from, I guess, vested interest going, hey, you're ruining our stock market, man. So he does it after hours, so he gives the market some time to digest.
Yep.
And the market supposedly kind of goes, oh, it's Trump. He's just forcing a deal. Okay, we've seen this before. And so you haven't quite seen, I guess, volatility if you did it on a Monday morning.
Which is great for Bitcoin and things that are open 24/7. Like,
exactly.
we got all the down pressure of his announcements.
Yeah. So it's a kind of interesting strategy here. Now, this is where they kind of go, okay, so this is part of his end game. He kind of positions it in two ways. He's like, he'll go out there and claim a victory. Oh, it'll be fast, don't worry, and assets can pump. But then, when everyone goes, okay, for Iran's sake, they kind of go, okay, maybe they're not going to be, their heart's not in it. But then he'll come out and prove, and basically he'll threaten the forever war. Right? He'll be like, no, I'm doing this forever. There is no end to this. I don't care. He did the same thing with tariffs. He's doing the same thing with Maduro. He's doing the same thing with Iran. And he positions himself, and he came out only a couple of hours ago, and he's like, if they don't come and negotiate, we're going to do this forever. Right? So he just laid the forever ground, right? So this is again, this is following to the script. And when I read this, and when this article was published, they just said he'll at some point go, we're doing this forever. So the tweet was along the lines, you can go and check it out, it was kind of like, if they don't negotiate and they don't do what we want, we're going to come back in 20 times harder than we've just done, right? And then
We're
only
gonna hit 20 more schools with children in it. We're going to, all of those hospitals, they're gone.
But then I guess if that doesn't work, I guess he'll obviously position and go. He'll probably will what's the word for 20xing downing, right? And then only then once he's looking to kind of position and start framing the victory, then he'll give conditional de-escalation, so he can then frame up, the way that narrative looks around winning, right? And then when he claims, job done, then he can march off and be like, I've nailed that. And to be honest, in terms of he's doing, I guess, his business strategy towards just applying it at a geopolitical level, which is, I don't know, it's pretty ballsy.
I think the mind games are pretty funny. If you see the new Iranian leader, he's come out today or yesterday and said, our qualms aren't with the American people. You're fine if you want to drive up prices of oil, but we've got our qualms with government and particular institutions, you guys should stay out of it. And so talk about winning the war of the people. Like when you hear this supposed hated enemy is just, no, we don't care about you guys. Who's the enemy? The person causing the Bowser pump price increase.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see. I don't know. Can you just take a little...
Algorithms and whatever. We just, who knows what the public perception is, because
Man,
you'll see videos of people like rejoicing in the streets. You're like, oh, and then you'll see other ones of people going, death to the infidels, and like, oh, okay. And what's real? What's the truth?
Well, I saw a guy flying a magic carpet shooting down an F-35 this week. I'm pretty sure we all seen that. Like, true? Not true?
Yeah. The Prince of Persia. So, well, tell me, like, yes, he said all this stuff, and then, like, eventually, I mean, part of the playbook is the taco thing, right? Trump always chickens out, where he sort of presents this big thing and bails. I kind of got the impression that he was in the bailing stage, where he was like, we've basically won, and they're all dead now, pretty much. Like, literally, I think his words were pretty much they're all finished now, and like meanwhile Iran's still like shooting off ballistic missiles constantly, and all the neighboring countries are sheltering in place, kind of thing.
Yep.
And Trump's like, yep, we did it. We're going to walk out of here now. But now you're saying he's back. Like,
yeah, he's back.
Because the thing I saw was literally hours ago. Whereas
no, he's following the playbook. Like he kind of goes, yeah.
He kind of backed away, but now he's suddenly back.
He kind of backs
again.
away.
Right, okay.
Markets take a breather, and then he's like, no, forever.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
And then now,
because in the US it's still Sunday, right? Like it's not even Monday yet. The markets were recovering, and he'll dump them again. He's doing a forever war.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we will get into let's get in the actual crypto stuff because there has been Trump has been doing again. He's been doing the same thing now. He's doing it with crypto. So we actually saw him in between, having a major war. He's also come out and said, you know what? It's unacceptable for the banks to hold up the crypto reform.
Yeah.
So he found some time for us, the crypto guys, which is, man, the guy must never sleep. Oh, we will. Wait, hang on. Jason Davis. Thanks, Jason. He says, can we talk about the OG memes blowing up today? I think yes. I'd love to know. Throw us some memes.
Yeah, tell us, Jason. Can you give us some more
memes
information about this?
Yeah, which memes you want us to discuss? Let's go it.
And Skynet confirms that we have not actually hit 20 million Bitcoin. Okay, so we got, what's that, 20 Bitcoin left, which is going to take...
That'll be done by the end of the stream.
Yeah, that'll be... Keep an eye on that. Can you look up the...
Yep, we'll do, yep.
Look up the live node.
If you've got a little party poppers for us, Jared?
We can do some lights, surely.
All right. I mean, we've been running for 23 minutes and we've yet to discuss anything to do with crypto. Should we just not bother?
Yeah. I mean, we've got the most amount of viewers so far. So people actually don't care about crypto. No.
Yeah.
Crypto is the reason why we're discussing a lot of this stuff is obviously because it affects everything, including crypto. Everyone likes to talk about, the crypto president and what he does next. And yeah, as you say, he finally started talking about crypto again. And to be fair, he's been pretty busy with other stuff. He's got a playbook that, Kabai he's downloaded the Kabai playbook and he's following all of the rules. But yeah, he stepped in to talk about crypto recently. So there's a Clarity Act that's been doing the rounds for quite a while now. The regulators, the banks, the crypto industry are still in discussions about what it'll eventually look like. Last week or the week before, we kind of spoke about how the bankers basically put their foot down and said, we will not accept anything that offers yield to retail participants, which basically means you can't, buy some USDC and then earn your 4% yield on it that Circle seems to be, or Coinbase seems to be willing to offer everybody. Coinbase guy, what's his name? Brian Armstrong wasn't happy about this at all and put his foot down backwards, back to them, and said, no, I also will not accept these terms, because he was basically...
Everyone's taken a backward step.
Everyone's got a hill they'll die on, which means you don't get any forward motion, basically. Everyone wanted this thing done by the 1st of March. It was not done by then. There goes my voice. So Trump has now stepped in, which has been pretty interesting because he seems to be, at least on everything that I'm reading, fully for the crypto industry and saying the banks are the baddies and basically positioning the banks as the guys who are stopping innovation and not allowing anything to move forward and are always on our backs and why don't they let us do what we want, kind of thing, which is pretty interesting. That was surprising to me because, I don't know, I feel like Trump I don't know, I'm talking out my ass here, but he feels like a guy who would be big business and have a lot of interests in making sure that the banks like him and want to vote for him, I guess. I don't know. This is a very amateur take from me, but clearly he's more interested in keeping the crypto guys on side.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. So what I thought was interesting is he actually specifically called out yield as well. So he said, like, we should allow the American people to earn yield on their money, basically, which is exactly what crypto, like the Coinbases and all the other like sort of crypto industry participants who are involved in these discussions are trying to push for, and specifically what the banks are not trying to push for. And like we've spoken in previous weeks as well, I'm sort of curious how that will turn out, because there are consequences to allowing everyone to exit the banking system and just dump their money into Coinbase.
Yeah, but one thing though, like, and this is one of the most compelling ideas I've heard about why the US government, Trump, whatever, would be really interested in making sure that there's a thriving stablecoin market in particular, and people using crypto. Let me rephrase that by saying they want people to use crypto because they know that a lot of payments they can see, there's so much money is flowing into stablecoins in particular. There's a lot of interest in using stablecoins, but those stablecoins are effectively then committed buyers of US treasuries.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And if you simply look at if you look at the Treasury projections, this is I can't remember his name, but when they looked at the projection, in the short term, there was like an 8x-ing of the demand for stablecoins, right? So the market cap was going to 8x, I should say. And that's a lot of money that's has to go into effectively US Treasuries. So if you're like a Trump or anyone in the government going, hey, who has no choice but to buy our debt, it would be US dollar stablecoins.
And therefore the US public.
Yeah.
And I guess the global public, really.
The global public, you're moving, it's like an opportunity to almost move. You're like the US going, hey, we want to make sure that everyone's using US dollars forever.
Yeah.
The next wave of money is going to be backed in with US dollar stablecoins. How about we make sure that America is leading the charge on that? Because, we've seen this here in some other examples where with the CFTC, CTFs, whatever, CFTC, whatever, you know what I mean? They are, I'm going to have to edit in when I'm saying that correctly at some point, but they have kind of come out and been like, hey, we need to get, our markets and tokenization laws, kind of market, laws, regulations correct, so that this stuff isn't happening offshore. And it already is happening offshore because there's a lack of regulation. So I can kind of see from the government's point of view going, hey guys, we need to get ahead of this. Right?
Yes, no, I totally agree. But I feel like there's opposing, and I hate to be the anti-crypto guy in this argument, but it does seem to me like if the banks suddenly have no more money, then everything's going to get more expensive. Because right now, for better or for worse, every time a retail person deposits money into their bank account, the bank is like, sweet, I'm going to pay, a 40th of that back to them in yield and take the rest to loan out and create business economic activity, blah, blah, blah.
Why can't the banks start lending out in tokenized versions of the US dollar as well? And they're just the same demand, same business structure.
Because
they've just been now optimized to use smart,
well,
digital dollars, which would make their operations more efficient. And
no, but they can. But my point is that if you want to go get a loan because you've got a cool idea and you want to build some product, it's suddenly going to be much, much more expensive to do that. And the overarching sort of aggregated effect of this is going to be everything just slows down. Economic activity goes lower, GDP goes down. There's going to be other side effects of this. And yes, cool. People are now earning 4% instead of 0.1%, and that's great. But what are the other, does this mean recession? Does this mean less jobs? There's less people building new businesses? I don't know. But I feel like it's not just as simple as, the banks want to, and this is something that Trump called out too, is that the banks they've all got record profits, blah, blah, blah. And so they should be, pulling their head in a bit and stop, being greedy and taking it all. But I think there's going to be other effects as well. It's not just that the banks can earn a little bit less profits. I think there's going to be other things going on. Anyway, it'll be very interesting to see. We can kind of watch from the outside what happens. And something else I think that was interesting that Trump called out here he talked about how if the Clarity Bill doesn't go forward, China is going to take all of the crypto industry, and it's going to be other countries, but he specifically called out China. And that was...
It's interesting given they banned crypto.
Exactly. How can China, or does he know something that we don't know, or is he just trying to fearmonger and going, you wouldn't want China taking this industry, would you, when America could be the ones taking it? Which kind of, I don't know, in a way it sort of reduces the argument for me when he said that.
Well, that is a great lead into another discussion I know we're going to have today, which let's jump into it because why not?
Let's do it.
And that is why there's a question that was posed, and an analyst, Mr. Tipper, I believe, Steve Tipper.
Yes, I saw that.
Has this is a really interesting take on why Bitcoin pumped, gold pumped, why Bitcoin dumped. And it all had to do effectively with global liquidity, sort of saying that we actually have had an increase of global liquidity, but where has that extra global liquidity come from?
China.
And so in China, there is, you're banned from buying Bitcoin. And a lot of that liquidity got sucked up by gold because that was the one thing they could buy. And that was very interesting to me. And I think we've talked about this before. I've certainly brought it up before.
I had a theory before about this.
About the idea that if you just knew where the liquidity was going, the Manics, Panics and Crashes for the books, for those of you who went out and read the book after I recommended it, was talking about this exact phenomenon. This liquidity has to go somewhere. And wherever it goes, it just kind of sets off a chain reaction. And once the price started running through and a lot of liquidity started running, everybody was lining up to buy more gold and then the narratives filled in behind it.
Yes.
Just like the queues down at Martin Place to buy gold, right? Be going, oh, well, it's this, it's that. It's like, no, there was liquidity. Everyone rushed to it, and you saw the price going up, and you just FOMO'd your way into it.
Yep.
And you were like, no, gold's the new safe haven because it was trading like a shitcoin as well.
The new safe haven, I love that.
After Bitcoin, the new. So the new safe haven. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And this, I think I mentioned like a few weeks back, sort of a theory that I'd heard, which was basically the same as this, was saying, China, when the Chinese guys are looking for this hedging asset, something that they can store their money safely in, they can't do Bitcoin because it's banned, and B, it's like the Trump coin. They don't want to buy the Trump coin because Trump has kind of co-opted Bitcoin, and so what do? Well, they buy gold because that's the next most obvious sort of purchase, and then neck minute gold. Not neck minute, but this was my sort of vague explanation for gold pumping over $5,000. But as part of that that sort of analysis that you mentioned, what's next for Bitcoin? When do we get our turn? When's the Bitcoin supply shock? Do you have an answer?
Nope.
Yes. I mean, the tweet basically says, look, we just need to wait for the situation that demands that injects liquidity into the Western sphere. And then where's it going to go? Well, Bitcoin will definitely be.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. We just hit 20 million Bitcoin, everyone.
We're now at 20,146,000.
Send it.
Huh?
All right.
No, that's not right.
Circulating supplies, 20,146.875.
Oh, not 146,000, 146.
No, sorry.
Okay.
Woo! Imaginary party poppers going off. All right.
Yes, last.
Hey, that's wild. So there's 1 million left, but of course we know we'll never get to 1 million because of the.
Well, we'll get to 1 million.
Sorry, 21 million exactly.
Yeah.
But because it's always halved. Like you never.
Yeah,
quite
no, you do actually get to 21 million.
Oh.
There is a final in 2140 or something like that. It hits and there's a full 21 million out there. It doesn't, like, it's not an asymptote that goes forever. Yeah.
Okay, so
no, it does. And I hear what you're saying, and I looked into this once, and I can't remember if it's. I'm pretty sure, like, as part of the protocol, it just goes, you know what, I shouldn't technically get there, but here's the final beat instead.
Oh, right, so
like
cheats.
It might cheat on the very last one.
So it's
like
not
that.
like a million mathematicians walk into a bar. The first one says, I'll have a beer. And the second one says, I'll have half of what he has, continuing on forever. So the barman pours 2 beers.
Yeah. Well, that's essentially it, but this doesn't go forever. It stops at 2140, but yeah.
So so according to our new theory, well, I guess it's not our theory, but we're going. Let's claim it. Let's claim it as ours.
Yep.
So we just, it doesn't matter. There's the narrative we know just will follow in once we get the liquidity.
Yeah, I mean that's right. So at the moment, the liquidity kind of disappeared from the Western side, and we saw Bitcoin do exactly what would be expected in that situation, which is halved, and we're not talking about the block reward here. We're talking about the price, unfortunately. But eventually our time will come. Eventually, we'll like be sitting here with the grey old beards. And like, oh, finally the Bitcoin is back at 100,000. Yeah.
We'll just become Peter Schiffs. Everyone comes better Peter Schiff, but with Bitcoin.
Yeah. Oh,
And something new will come
on
out.
that guy.
And yeah, we should.
Like he's
Give him a call. Jared, give me a call.
He's also
Give him
been
a-
loving
Either
life.
become Peter Schiff or live long enough to become Peter Thiel.
I like
Nice, very nice.
I like it. Hey, did we ever hear about the memes we're going to talk about?
I think that tangented off into something else.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, the altcoins blowing up was the oil refineries, actually. They're all blowing up. That was good.
Hey,
An oil coin.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually looking into this today. You can buy all sorts of commodities on the line, on the blockchain, which is kind of interesting because if you don't have a ComSec account or you don't want to bother trying to set up some kind of traditional finance brokerage account, you can buy literally exposure on chain. For me, the sort of interesting aspect, or maybe the concerning aspect, is that you got to, well, not concerning, but something you have to take into account. You have to kind of consider what's the longevity of this. If I come back in 6 months, does this token still exist? So you got to kind of pick carefully what you're going to do. And this is not financial advice at all, but in my research, I found 2 places you could probably do it. Again, do your own research, figure it out for yourself. But if you're interested, you can have a look at like Hyperliquid have a Trade XYZ platform, which does the sort of non-official Hyperliquid listings. Trade XYZ is the sort of the biggest one that's been around for quite a while now, and you can sort of do perpetual futures on various commodities. And there's also a platform called G Trade, I think it is, Gains Trade, and that sort of does that trades ETFs. So you can buy like some kind of commodities ETF and normal stuff. It trades all normal stuff as well, but it's kind of interesting because it really mirrors the traditional finance world. So on this platform, if you want to buy some, let's say uranium ETF, you can't buy it right now because the market's closed. You have to actually wait for New York open. And then you can buy it during the open times because they're actually trading the ETF in the back end on the real exchange.
yeah, no way.
But anyway, yeah, it's kind of there's definitely options out there if you want to buy this is the RWA stuff, right? We've talked about this a lot,
which is progressing at a hectic pace. And the Nasdaq just this week actually kind of announced they are a partnership with XStocks, which is issued by Backed. Which is works with Backed, who's the issuer of I guess the stocks for XStocks.
This is a Kraken subsidiary, like it's
the Kraken subsidiary. Yes, correct. Now they're going to allow tokenized equities, and I guess this is the real meat of where things are headed to, right? That we've talked about the gap and all this kind of stuff, which is. I don't know exactly why markets have been structured a bit like how we talked about how this culture thing just happens and everyone does things a certain way and they don't know why, like the Confederate studies. Like so much of what we do is not done for any rhyme or reason. It's done because it was just always done that way. Like markets between 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah.
It was probably just always done that way.
because Joe wanted to go home at 5.
Because Joe wanted to go home at 5. So without any rhyme or reason, it's not necessarily that things can't just trade 24/7. But maybe it was because the technology at the time, or Joe wanted to go home. Look, I don't know. But now we have tokenized stocks, which the promise is there's 24/7 trading of all these assets.
Yeah, well, except for the one that I just mentioned, where it's still 9 to 5 or 24/5. No,
Until
not even 24/5, like
Why
9
can't
to,
it be
9 to
token?
5 in the US times. But yeah, no, this Nasdaq thing is interesting, and there's 2 components to this. So the first one is the XStocks by Backed that you mentioned. This the way they're doing this one is that they're basically, if you go and buy, I don't know, like a Tesla share from XStocks, let's say, they will in the back end buy a Tesla share on the real stock market and mint a token for you, and then you get that and you can take that into your MetaMask wallet or whatever, and you could even like set up a AMM on Uniswap and create a market for Tesla, these X-backed Tesla tokens, and anyone can buy them. So you as the actual buyer from Backed, which is the XStocks platform, this is confusing, but if you're the buyer, you need to be like permissioned, so not anyone can actually buy from Backed. But once you have it, you can kind of do whatever you want with it. The Nasdaq are also, and this is sort of a Nasdaq partnership with XStocks to bring this product. But Nasdaq as well are looking to do a sort of a more thorough tokenization of their stocks, which would allow you to basically, if you go and buy a Tesla share on the Nasdaq for settlement, which I don't know if it would still be T+2, it'd be kind of disappointing, but when you actually get settled this stock that you just bought, you can either choose for it to go into your brokerage account, or you can say, I want this minted on the blockchain. And then they will actually mint it for you directly. And that's pretty cool, because that means that now the actual issuer is doing this tokenized stuff, is doing the on-chain stuff, and the pricing should be much more aligned. What do we got here? Question about this. Yeah, so our RWAs on-chain. Interesting part of RWAs on-chain is that the price discovery over after hours tends to match the open price when the trade market reopens. Yeah, this is something I think we talked about last week as well. So it's kind of interesting when you have a market that's on 24/7 versus the underlying, which is only open 24/5 or even 9 to 5, if that makes sense. Which is the oracle in this case? Is it the underlying, which should, theoretically that should be the oracle, especially for physical goods. You can't make up something that's, that if there's a physical underlying asset. But if the market is, if the after hours market, the tokenized version, the derivative has got enough trading power and enough volume and depth and liquidity, and people are doing heaps of trades through it, then maybe the underlying starts following the derivative, which is kind of an interesting idea.
The market will decide, I guess, in long term. We'll kind of
Absolutely,
see, right?
yeah.
We'll see this.
The market,
this is going to play out. But the one thing I think, just conceptually, with any of this kind of stuff, it's very easy to look at a point in time. I made this point a bunch of times, but I think technology comes on at an exponential rate, where we tend to see things as kind of this linear rate. And so whatever the experience has been today, kind of like, that's not going to be the experience going forward. Like, the rate of adoption for these things will be just exponentially faster. So where does that leave us? Again, I have no idea.
Well, I'll tell you where that leaves us. Humans aren't able to process that kind of change at that kind of rate at all. We can only do linear and like slightly accelerating kind of thing.
But it's been accelerating forever.
But my point is, this is where AI sticks in. Like, AI is going to be able to handle this stuff, and we're just going to be like, oh, what are you doing? Okay, I hope it's not dangerous. We're just going to have to trust AI at some point, because we cannot possibly keep up with all this stuff that's going on. What else we got here? So the circuit breakers in trad. This is from Skynet. The circuit break. Oh, okay. We just deleted that bit. I've purchased RWAs like stocks and ETFs from Ondo's tokenized list. Yeah, Ondo's another great platform for that kind of stuff. So, and again, like, this is buying tokenized stocks, commodities, whatever on chain is great. Like, it really speaks to me, because it just seems so easy. I can chuck some USDC in my MetaMask wallet or whatever and buy it, and I don't have to worry about onboarding and signing into some TradFi platform and all that kind of stuff. But in 6 months' time, when I'm like, okay, I'm ready to sell, and I go to sell, and the token's been shut down, and there's no more smart contract, and the Ondo or G Trade or whatever Gains Trade is just not responding to my requests. Like, that sucks, right? So you gotta. I think it's still. I'm not going to say Wild West, but it's still. You need to pay attention.
You have to pay attention,
and you need to be ready for.
The Wild West is probably still a fair analogy, given that there is no laws, and this is what the CFTC is trying to clear the way with, right? So let's talk about that, because this is the whole issue, that we're trying to have some market rules around this stuff, so that it can be onshored. Because in the US, you can't just go out and just be like, woo! They had the Wild West like 300 years ago or whatever. And they're like, you know what? There's a better way to do this with law and order, which is kind of where we are now. So in an effort to bring more of this stuff back on shore, and there's lots of, all the unregulated stuff that you're talking about tends to happen in the Wild West, which is, metaphorically speaking, now outside of the US.
Yes, by everywhere.
But they are looking at it, and in fact, there's, I guess, the couple of things here that we kind of need to discuss. One is, yes, the CFTC is trying hard to get, I guess, rules around this for perps trading in the US in particular, but also for around prediction markets. We know poly markets and Kalshi are huge businesses now, but again, they kind of operate in this space. Like, what's to stop Kalshi or poly markets, apart from being good blokes, just decide to disappear with everyone's kind of bets, So that's kind of interesting. So yeah, take it away. So I think, getting this sorted will clear the kind of pathway for a lot of stuff in this space.
So what we're talking about here, the CFTC have sort of said that they're willing to come to the table on the Perps perpetuals market, perpetual futures. So perpetual futures, for those who don't know, are basically a futures market that never expire. So traditional futures markets, you say, it's kind of like a bet. You go, okay, I'm going to bet on the price of wheat, and I think that the price of wheat is going to be 10% higher in 6 months' time. And so you can buy a futures sort of derivative, and in 6 months' time, this derivative that you bought, this futures contract, expires. And if you're right, then you win and you get extra money. And if you're wrong, then often you have to take delivery of the product at the worst price, kind of thing.
Or close it out. Yep.
Or you close it. Depends if it's cash settled or not, I guess. But with a perpetuals future, and as far as I know, BitMEX invented perpetuals futures. Is that right? Do you know the?
I'm not a Perps nerd.
Yeah. So as far as I know, and Skynet, please correct me if I'm wrong. Or anyone on the chat, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think BitMEX invented this concept of perpetual futures, where they basically said, "Look, we'll do this futures idea, but we won't actually have an expiry date. We'll just keep it going." And the way it works is through funding. So if you're long and most other people are short, then you can bring home you can earn some money by holding your futures position, and vice versa. Anyway, so it's a cool concept. It's much easier. I feel it is very complex, but at a high level, it's easier to understand. You don't have to worry about a contract
date,
end date,
delivery,
and all that kind of stuff.
Kind of stuff.
But there was no sort of regulation on it in the US, and what that meant was all of the perpetual futures markets kind of went offshore, and because the idea was great, so they weren't going to just drop it because the US weren't regulating it. However, old mate Michael Selig, who is the CFTC commissioner, has come in and said, "Yeah, look, we need to get something happening here. Let's get it done." The interesting part at this point for me is that he has kind of the final say over the CFTC.
Yeah, he's right.
Because he's the only guy.
Oh, yeah, I saw
so
this.
there's supposed to be 5 commissioners, 5 CFTC commissioners. There we go. That's Michael there, who sort of confer with each other, and they'll have to vote on issues and whatever. Yeah. Throughout 2025, 5 commissioners all left, and he got brought into the CFTC, like he got elected as a commissioner on the 22nd of December, I think it is, the day the final previous guy left, or lady, I think it was. And he's the only one. And
yeah, well,
and so he gets to make all the decisions, and he's like all in favor, and he puts his own hand up, and then it gets done.
Is it the definition of a one-horse town where there's a sheriff and there's only one lawman in town, and he gets to decide exactly what's going on?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I found this.
So we said it wasn't the Wild West, but there's only one sheriff in town.
I know. The Wild West is we're reverting. It's a recidivist society. Anyway, this guy has basically said, "Look, while I'm the only guy here, let's get some stuff done." And he's basically voted. He said, "Let's do some perpetual futures regulation." So I think he's chatting to this SEC is involved as well, but he's saying, "Look, I'll do it. CFTC are fine. We'll manage this side of things." And
he's a great lawman.
Yeah, well, he's. I mean, I think it's a good idea. They should have. I don't know what the legislation actually says, and if it's prohibitive or whatever. But I think they should definitely be trying to get that stuff onshored, because there's a whole bunch of flow-on effects if you can have these perpetual 24/7.
I'm pretty sure we saw I can't remember the name of the exchange when we were at Token in Singapore last year, Nick. You and I were doing a walk around the grounds, and we saw some exchange. I've never heard of them before. They're offering a gajillion times leverage. I think literally 100 or 400 times leverage or something on Perps, and they actually wrote on it, "Never get liquidated."
Oh yes, I remember that. Yeah,
that?
No
and we're
liquidation.
How can that be possible?
How do you do that? Yeah, incredible.
Is it possible for that kind of company to get wrecked based on good bets?
On good bets? Well, I mean, a proper perpetuals market is like an exchange. You have market makers, you have people sitting on the other side. It's usually you're not trading in principle with the actual exchange. But I mean, anything's possible. If you
a liquidity maker,
100%. Well, no, and even in these situations, like a liquidity maker, think back to the
October
was it
11.
October 11? Yeah.
There was all speculation that a whole bunch of market makers got blown up, but we never saw any bodies float to the surface.
But not only market makers, right? So when you're on an exchange and you take a position and you say I'm going 100x long on Bitcoin, and Bitcoin jags down seriously fast, and goes the opposite direction, and you get liquidated, the liquidation engine is the exchange. So your account goes negative, and you get wrecked. Sure, you've got zero, but theoretically you could owe the exchange $100,000, and you could just walk away at that stage. I'm not saying you should or anything, but theoretically, like these guys, could just go, "Oh, I'm bankrupt, see ya."
Yeah,
and now the exchange can absolutely get wrecked in these situations.
Like the old saying, it's like if you're down $100,000, that's your problem. If you're down 100 million, that's the exchange's problem.
Exactly. Yeah. No, so it's definitely possible. However, in this scenario where it's you'll never get liquidated, I'm sure there's some kind of terms and conditions that it would explain the scenarios where you can't get liquidated and the insurance that you have to buy and the extra this and that must be fulfilled, and you have to prove that you're a accredited investor and like all this kind. I'm sure there was a bunch of terms and conditions that would mean it. Otherwise, it's not a real sort of leverage position. Maybe they're just pretending to be leveraged, but actually that you're not leveraged at all. What were we talking about?
Well, I think we're talking about quantum computing, Nick.
Oh,
I can't
quantum
recall.
computing.
I can't recall, but I'm pretty sure we're talking about quantum computing.
Yeah, that's right. We were talking about that.
So I know you love
last
talking.
week.
Yeah, I know you love talking about quantum computing. Do you want to talk about quantum computing?
Yeah, let's do it.
I don't know what to ask you because you're the expert.
Yeah, hold me back. So quantum computing, what's happened recently is these guys have, I can't remember the name of the company, Qubit or something like that, have a really original name. PsiQuantum, that's it. Oh, nice. PsiQuantum and NVIDIA have banded together to build a 1 million qubit quantum computer warehouse. I don't know if it's one quantum computer or a whole bunch of them adding up to be 1 million qubits. So this is a pretty big deal. Currently, the biggest quantum computer, as far as I know, in existence is like some university in the US have built a 6,000, I think, qubit computer, which is pretty bloody big. Like 6,000 is the biggest we've seen in quite a while. These guys want to build 1 million qubits, which is absolutely massive. We spoke a couple of weeks ago about how, what does this mean for Bitcoin? Theoretically, the encryption that would need to be broken that Bitcoin uses would take 100,000 qubits. This is constantly coming down. So rewind like 2 months, and the answer was, I can't remember, it was like 2 million qubits, something like that. Then next minute it was 900,000, and then like a week later it was like, no, actually we figured out some fancy techniques and we can do this at 100,000 qubits now. So it's like the requirement to break it is doing this. If you can see my hand on the screen, I'm pointing it downwards just in case for those who are listening and not watching later. And the requirement to the requirement to break it is going down, and meanwhile our ability to build a quantum computer is going up. Like these things are going to meet in the middle. It seems inevitable and quickly. And these guys have got 1 million, but they've raised $1 billion to build this new thing that can build it. Now the interesting thing about this, I thought, was that the guy, what was his name, John Terry or something? I've forgotten his name. That the guy who's kind of running this project, this PsiQuantum?
Terry Rudolph.
Terry Rudolph. What did I say? Joe Terry. Close. Terry Rudolph has said, by the way, guys, we're not going to break Bitcoin. And then I'm pretty sure as he said it, he was like, just like winks at the camera.
Oh, what a super villain!
Yeah.
You know what? I just finished watching Cobra Kai, and the main bad guy is Terry Silver. So Terry is. I always thought of Terry as a bit of a dorky name, but it's actually kind of a super villain name.
Yeah,
now.
it is a bit. Anyway,
Terry Rudolph.
He promises that he's not going to break Bitcoin. Please, he's going to. Fortunately, I have no Bitcoin, so he can't steal mine. But yeah, he's going to break. That's obviously going to be the first thing he does as soon as he builds this big computer.
What if the general community, or I know there's a pie in the sky idea, but promised to only steal lost Bitcoin?
How do you decide if it's lost or not?
Look, my hypothetical, okay?
Is this another one of your 3 a.m. ideas?
Guys, aliens. Yeah, I guess. That seems like a nice sort of altruistic...
Let's say all of the Satoshi era wallets all upgraded to quantum resistant, and the only ones not upgraded were lost Bitcoin. Does that make
How do
sense?
you know if they lost or not? But like,
yeah, well, I mean, you have to assume that anything that's not upgraded is therefore lost.
Yeah.
But I think the Satoshi ones are therefore lost.
Yeah.
Because, you know, realistically, Satoshi's not around anymore. Whether he's dead or whether he's just decided to go live in a bunker in Tasmania, I'm not sure. But, yeah, I mean, that's an interesting idea, I suppose. But the problem is, like, even if, you know, who gets to steal it? Like, is it then just a race for the baddies?
Jared, I want to know more about these 3M ideas. Do you like, when you have them, do you like bolt straight upright and be like,
You're assuming I'm
Jared's
not
wife,
still awake.
listen to this idea.
I'm still awake. It's not a waking up with an epiphany.
No. I want you to wake up and yell, Jared's wife. I've got an idea.
I assume that's what you call her, so that,
Yeah.
you know, in case anyone's listening, they don't, you know, drop in, you know, names of people who maybe not want to be mentioned.
Well, that's what I call her.
I could just imagine it. And what does she normally say when you come up with these ideas?
Not again.
Yeah, that's right. Go back to bed. Yeah, so Skynet's coming with some like wisdom as usual. The required to break RSA is 100,000. ECDSA, which is Bitcoin's cryptography, is probably less than RSA. So yes, you're right. It's actually probably even easier than 100,000, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't know. We still obviously have time. I'd like to see some more things going ahead with us in our quantum roadmap for Bitcoin. That'd be nice for me. One of the guys in the office actually went to like a Bitcoin meetup with a couple of the core developers, and they spoke about like the quantum risk. And it sounds like at least these core developers, unfortunately I don't remember who they were, but it sounds like they are not worried at all. So they're kind of taking the Samson Mao Blockstream, what's his name, Adam Back view that it's not an issue and we're like 10 years away from this being a problem.
Interesting.
It just doesn't seem like that. Every time we turn around, there's, you know, we wouldn't be speaking about quantum computing if there wasn't new announcements being made, right? And every week there's something comes up and it's like, oh, by the way, we're one step closer.
Yeah.
Yeah, Satoshi. So Skynet also mentions Satoshi coins are all in separate wallets, each 50 Bitcoin sitting in its own address. So the quantum attacker needs to break. Yeah, so Satoshi's wallets aren't really a like a honeypot per se, because they are in, and I'm actually going to correct Skynet here, which is UTXOs. You're talking about? What's
separate wallet addresses?
Well, and I'll correct you then as well. They're not actually technically
Mass
addresses.
corrections
yeah,
going
yeah,
going
that's
in.
right.
Actually.
No, they're not actually technically addresses. They're technically, as you say,
Actually.
yeah, the guy, the fat dude with the glass.
Can you throw it up there?
Yeah, they're not actually addresses, because back in those days there was no sort of, the address concept didn't really exist. It wasn't technically an address anyway. Yes, fortunately the Satoshi stuff isn't like this big honeypot. They'd have to break multiple 50 Bitcoin kind of public keys to get access to it. Yeah, here we go. I love this meme. This is like in my, like, I have it called, you know, --1.jpg in my pictures folder.
I know you love this meme.
I use it all the time.
I feel like this is most of my interactions with you.
Actually, yeah, that's the one. Yeah, so, but apparently, according to, I think CoinShares did a sort of an analysis of the quantum breakable Bitcoins that are currently out there, and there's about 10,000 that are sort of grouped up enough that it's worthwhile. What was his name? Terry Jones?
Terry Rudolph.
Terry Rudolph. Terry Jones.
Terry Two Hats.
Terry Jones is an author, maybe. Yeah, for Terry Rudolph to go and crack. So it's not like the 1.1 million Satoshi coins are suddenly at risk. Well, they are, but it'd be still difficult to get to them all because you have to do 50 at a time, kind of thing. This is, yeah. So Satoshi are in P2K. Yes, that's right. They're not. Yes, it's a visible public key, but fortunately they're not sort of all stored in one, you know, big honeypot. It's not like this big, you know, the dragon's lair full of treasure is sitting there waiting to be taken. It's more like a bunch of random X marks the spots that you got to dig up, and each time you got to start from scratch, which would be pretty annoying. But you know, when you're talking about computers are good at taking away those annoying things. So maybe when Bitcoin's worth $1 million, 50 Bitcoin is probably worth digging up one at a time. anyway, that's something we'll have to hopefully solve at some point.
Very good. Man,
That's the end of my quantum computing
And that-
diatribe.
Well, that brings us pretty much to the end of our session. There is some general updates worth going through. Are they worth going through? You know,
Yeah, what we got?
let the people decide.
We have an OG meme.
Oh yes, let's do it. Better. That's not an OG meme. That's a new
Iranian.
one.
That was one suggested by one of our listeners.
Oh, nice. I like that one. Well, I'm sure everyone has seen the AI footage of the dude on the flying car, but shooting down the F-35. I mean, that's fantastic. Imagine how. Oh man, if they had posted that on Facebook, like
This
I
is
love this comment from Autism Capital. Is like if that had, he's like if that had been posted on Facebook, we would have one-shot an entire generation of boomers.
Veins popping out of their heads.
I do have one anecdote, and it's about derivatives and futures and perpetuals. And I thought this was funny that it's not just people in crypto that are getting wrecked based on some harebrained schemes. So I found this Reddit thread the other week, and it goes, and the title is "I am financially ruined: agricultural futures." He's lost everything and he doesn't know how to continue. This summer, I invested $17,500, 6 months' salary, and my entire life savings into ornamental gourd futures, hoping to capitalize on this lucrative emerging industry. After watching a video about Vincent Kasuga and his monopoly on onions, I decided I'd try and do something similar with another vegetable. Basically, there was a coronavirus, a cricket plague, and unseasonable weather, and it completely destroyed him. And yeah, you can basically get ruined on anything.
Oh, that is true. That is true.
Ornamental onions.
Ornamental gourd futures, yeah.
What is
that's
a gourd?
not
What's
just
a gourd?
anything. It's like this. It's this like a tuber, like an underground vegetable, isn't
They're
it?
used for like millennials in like
I know.
Thanksgiving.
A gourd. I mean,
Photos,
underground
like-
vegetables could be a carrot or a
Yeah,
potato.
yeah. Yeah, like is that not what a gourd is? Maybe.
Oh well, that's my question. I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
So a gourd
It's
is an underground
basically
vegetable.
onion.
it's like an
Oh, no.
onion, but it's not an onion. It's a gourd.
Yeah.
Yeah,
go-
I mean that guy deserved to get.
You
wrecked
go
if
big
ask me.
enough
He put
on
6 months
anything
of
with
salary
leverage.
on some random.
He'd
thing.
done like the most research possible. Like he had charts of onion futures and weather formats from the Mediterranean. It was crazy.
Well, you can get wrecked on anything stupid. I've told you about our gambling strategy. We went down the casino with our just keep doubling up because like we put all our money together. Like we can't lose 22 times in a row.
Turns out.
Turns out you can. It wasn't quite 22, but we're like, the good old strategy of like just double.
yeah.
Just
Just
double.
keep doubling.
Eventually we'll get back and we just need 2 good rolls in a
Yeah.
row, baby.
And you want it to be near the end because if you like suddenly win right at the beginning, you're like, okay, we've got $17 now, but I kind of was hoping for more.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Skynet knows someone who got wrecked on emu eggs.
Oh my god.
Tough beat. How do you explain that to your wife? Jared,
It's probably
3 a.m. in the
easier-
morning. How do you do this?
Do you reckon it's easier or harder than meme coins?
Yeah, I was going to say like it's. I think there's a few meme coin traders that have got a lot of experience in this.
I've seen this other meme where it's like, hey, honey, look, I know the divorce is going through next week, but the lawyer really needs to know what coin it is that you lost all our money on.
Man,
Yeah,
you hear
yeah.
you hear all the stories of people round tripping huge bags. What was that Korean trader guy?
Oh, yeah,
he round
yeah.
tripped like $200 million
Yes,
in a week.
on Hyperliquid. Yeah.
And some lose some.
I mean, this is the Richard Hart cult, right? What's that coin? Hex coin.
Oh, Hex
and
Hexagons,
Pulse chain,
yeah,
whatever.
Hexagons.
Yeah,
Hexagons.
those guys. Yeah, I reckon that's like probably the highest level of divorce. That sort of community's got to have the highest level of divorce in it because of coins.
Have you seen? I think it's called King of Hearts or something like that.
Documentary about him.
The documentary about Richard Hart and all the hexagons, and it followed some just regular people who this exact scenario. Whereas a
Yeah,
guy,
right.
he had been convinced by his mate, and this is I think the insidious part. It says it was his mate doing it, and his mate thought he was helping him, right? Because his mate just doesn't know any better. Convinced him to kind of like move their entire life savings, young guy, young family, all into Hex. And even when it was down, he's kind of like, no, it's still good, man.
Yeah.
Don't lose the faith. Just sell your house and keep going. Oh, Pulse chain or whatever it is. That next one was
Yeah.
coming out. Was coming through. And
Sacrifice your money because
Sad.
it wasn't because it was specifically not a security, right? They're like, no, you should not expect any gains from this. You are sacrificing your coins. Therefore, Richard Hart can't go to jail.
horrible scenes. Horrible scenes.
Yeah, there's a great.
Ultramarine
There's,
Blue on TikTok agrees with us.
yeah, and Amway, yes.
Oh, Amway, yes, absolutely.
No, there's a great. There was a good. So Richard Hart, I guess Richard Hart did like his own kind of documentary on Hex and all that kind of stuff, and talking about how good it was and showing the community and blah blah. and he got Eric Wall on it, and Eric Wall's
Eric
like
Wall
this,
destroyed him. Eric
yeah,
Wall would
it's
have been destroyed him.
fantastic. So I highly recommend you check that out. He got Eric Wall on this public thing, and Eric Wall just And to be fair, like Richard Hart is an extremely good debater. Like he can speak.
He's
with
clearly
the
an
best of them.
intelligent guy.
Master.
Very smart dude, master debater for sure. And yet Eric Wall, who is my hero, managed to like
You dressed up like a wizard for Eric Wall.
That's true.
And he
yes.
rugged you.
Yes, and then he rugged me. Oh, I never thought about it like that. Damn.
Yeah.
He Richard Harted me.
He Richard Harded you. So even your heroes rug you,
It's disappointing.
Nick.
Oh well, I would never do that to you, though.
And we got a final drive-by comment by someone saying to not sleep on XRP.
XRP.
We don't.
Yeah.
We were just at the XRP event last week.
Yes, they had their, what was it, Swell?
Wave of innovation.
Wave of Innovation, yeah. Yeah, we had, I think Adrian, our CEO, went to that and had a talk about things. And
About tokenization, mostly about the institutional adoption of crypto and yada, yada, yada. It's all happening.
Yep.
Well, okay, quick summary. So the other news this week is it's Blockchain APAC's policy week happening here right in Sydney this week. So there's going to be a bunch of talking, bunch of serious people in suits talking about policy. You going to any events, Nick?
Do you think we're going to get any policy out of this? Like,
No.
do you think it results?
No.
You could pretend.
No.
So it doesn't result in any actual forward movement.
Not immediately. No, look, here's the thing. I think there has been a lot of roundtables that involve a lot of circular discussions, but those connections and the demonstration of the industry's capability means that now those tables, okay, there's still circular discussions around roundtables, but they are now they're now being recognised that something has to be done. We've seen in Australia there has been some serious legislation that has taken place. So these roundtables, these policy weeks of getting people together has, over the longer term, I don't think you can kind of go, here's an event, here's a policy outcome. It just doesn't work like that. Yeah. But it is bringing people together to kind of go, okay, guys, we kind of got to build some consensus and do some work around this and demonstrate that it's not just, random dudes doing random stuff around the internet, right? It's in a serious industry. Just seeing people, seeing the projects, getting understanding. I still think one of the biggest, most interesting projects, Project Acacia. So for those of you who saw the Tim Bass podcast, go and check that out. I think this is probably one of the best things that are happening in Australia, where it's really brought together actual projects, actual dollars between a lot of industry participants, which delivers a tangible result at all levels that kind of leads to going, okay, this is great, we should be doing more of this stuff. So I think these are the types of things that came out of policy weeks. But there's not a direct link, but you can link between any particular event.
So it's sort of like peacocking until the suits notice us and go, okay, we better actually do some policy.
You can put it that way.
Yeah.
And we've got our own event, invitation-only event with the good people at Talus this Thursday, having a breakfast. Invite only, that's why you're not invited, Nick. That's why Nick's not there. No. Jared, who let you in?
I'm the door woman.
Oh, you're the doorman. No, I'm joking. You can come along if you'd like, Nick. It is breakfast time. You have to get up nice and early though.
Okay. I'll whisper to my kids that I have to leave early.
Okay. Speak to them quietly and see if they get themselves ready and take themselves to school that morning.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
See if that works. All right, I think we're done.
Cool.
What a day. All right. Well, thank you for everyone for stopping by. We will be back again next week, unless I lose my voice. But I won't, because I'll be speaking quietly all week.
Yeah, yes.
Very low chance of me losing my voice. So that will not be the reason if we're not here.
Cool.
Thanks for
See you
watching.
next time.
Thanks, guys.